Hi there, welcome back. Again, I want to apologize for the length of time in between each of these videos lately. Between stuff going on in the world and holidays and work and everything, it's been kind of difficult to find the time and energy to do these videos the last couple months. I'm currently off for a few weeks from my main job due to the pandemic. So I've got some more time on my hands, so I'm going to try to get a few videos recorded and edit them so that I have plenty to work with for the next few weeks. So, with that out of the way, in my last video I talked about the fact that in my next video I would discuss the worst experience I ever had with a race weekend. So with that, we'll rewind to August of 2017. I had just run my second Boilermaker a few weeks prior. I had overtrained myself afterwards, meaning I was so gung-ho with having run a half marathon and running not one but two half marathons, the second one improving my time by about 20 minutes, and then running the Boilermaker and improving my time from the year prior by 20 minutes. I was kind of full of myself and just kept overtraining. The very next day after the race, I went out and ran 4 miles. The next day after that, I ran, and it got to the point where I was pretty much injuring my shins, my ankles. I gave myself a really bad case of shin splints. This is why I'm very emphatic with people about wearing proper shoes, going to Fleet Feet or other local shoe stores that will do all kinds of stuff to find the right shoe for your foot, because that's what I ended up having to do because my shin splints were so severe. I would run too much, too often. Finally figured out, I need to have new shoes because I put too many miles on the previous pair, and then I was buying all kinds of pairs of shoes and trying all of them out, and it just kind of snowballed. So, and I needed to get new orthotic inserts for my shoes anyway. So anyway, that was the lead up to this particular race. I had finally mostly recovered from the injuries. I was able to run a lot more often again because this was a little over a month after having run the Boilermaker, so I think it was the immediate week or two after the Boilermaker that I injured myself and just exacerbated it. So I'd been kind of laying off a little bit. I was still training some, but I wasn't going as hard and as heavy. I'd run for shorter spurts and walk a lot of the time, so I was still out there doing something, but I wasn't injuring myself as badly. So, and I had signed up for this race. I had gotten it in my head that for the remainder of the year I would run a race every month. So I had run the Syracuse Half Marathon in March. I didn't run anything in April, but I ran the Erie Canal Half in May. I ran a local 5K in June. I ran the Boilermaker in July. I was going to run these 2 races in August. And then I had a 10-mile race September. Another dual race in October that was actually run by the same company that did this particular race I'm talking about. And that race ended up being canceled, and I don't think they're in business anymore. If this video says anything about that. And then that ended up being, instead, since that got canceled, I ran the Hairy Gorilla Half for the first time. I ran the Syracuse Half again in November because they moved it to November instead of March. And then I went to New York City and ran down there. So I ended up running essentially, I think, like 12 races that year. Or at least 10. I think that was the way I kind of figured it. I'd kind of cover my bases from March until December, and then the 2 5Ks kind of covered April that I didn't run in, and then February. Anyway, with this particular race weekend, it was in a town nearby called Sylvan Beach, which is on, I believe, Oneida Lake. And I remember going there many, many times as a kid. There's a very small amusement park there that I used to have a blast on, a very small roller coaster, do a haunted house, all kinds of other stuff. It was just, you know, a little small, almost like carnival kind of thing. It's still there, it's just kind of shoddy looking because it's been around for so long and it's next to a lake. And I remember telling a couple people, and they're like, why would you want to run there? That place is kind of like a toilet. And, you know, the nostalgia kind of kicked in. That was part of it, because I remember enjoying that place as a small kid and seeing it as a 28, 29-year-old adult. I was a bit like, oh, no, this place isn't so wonderful anymore. But anyway, I digress. So, basically, I was given the option to either run a 5K, a 10K, or a half, or run the 5K on Saturday, and then either run the 10K or the half on Sunday. So, of course, I chose to do the 5K on Saturday and the half on Sunday. So we went down to Sylvan Beach and got my packet. I was all dressed, ready for the race because it was that afternoon. So, got the packet and realized that we were pretty much running a race in the 70s. Bibs had no... Like, if you run a race now, you have trackers on the back of your bibs. If you've never run a race before, I'm telling you now, you've got trackers on your bibs somewhere so that when you cross those mats, okay, you're here, and we're going to count until you cross the next mat, and it'll be, you know, going to the 5K distance, the 10K, the 15, etc. So it'll pop up on any apps or anything so that you can keep track of how you're doing with each race that you're participating in. So, okay, I did these 2 halves and I improved my 5K time here, but my 10K time kind of slowed here, and etc. These did not have that. All it was basically like you'd see in races being run before the 90s, probably, maybe during the 90s. I don't know when the bib tracking technology started, but basically the way it used to be was you'd have a little ring tab on your bib. So you had your safety pin holes to keep your bib on your shirt or on your shorts. And then you had the tabs at the bottom that would be your bag check tab, your anything else. And then there was the one corner that had a very big circle that always says do not put. They still have these on bibs now, I guess, in case there's some problem with the bib tracking. I don't know. But it's there, and it always says on the tab, do not put anything here, because it's not for the safety pin. It's to pull it off and put it on the post after you cross the finish line, so that they can make note, this is when you cross the finish line. Again, we have technology now that it'll read you on your bib to say when you've crossed different points along the race course. So I'm running in 2017. Apparently this is, I mean, I can't fault them. I'm sure they were a smaller running racing company. That's why they did it this way. I don't know how much the running tracking technology costs. However, as I said, I run a 5K in my hometown numerous times over the years, and they always have a bib tracker on the bib. And we're not exactly a big thing that we can really afford something like that. So anyway, so that was one thing where I went like, I got the bib and I was like, oh, okay, this is like my 5th and 6th races of all time for me, and I'm going like, I've never seen a bib look like this before. Very plain, very nothing to them, because it's literally just the bib. So ended up, getting some ice cream or something there, or had lunch there quick, and then got ready for the race. Did the 5K. Wanted to take it kind of easy because I was going to be running the half marathon the next day. And it was the middle of August, so I didn't want to wear myself out too much, and I had the injury with my shin splints, so I wanted to take it easy. So I didn't push myself as hard as I could have, but looking at the time that I had, I did end up pushing myself because I just instinctively do that sometimes. So, got done, again, pulled the tab off, hand it to the person at the finish line, and then we went and had dinner. So, the next morning, woke up, got ready, drove over to my mom's. We drove down to Sylvan Beach, and we got there, of course, early. And I was, we're running in August. August is usually pretty warm, so I had my tank top and shorts, and we're on a lake, and I was freezing. We were all freezing to death. There are pictures of me crossing the finish line, and my mom's in the background wearing a jacket because she's so hot, or she's so cold. Whereas me, of course, by that point, I'd been running enough that I was sweating, so it didn't bother me. But, yeah, so that was one thing that was kind of unexpected, but that had nothing to do with the race itself. That was just the way the weather was. We're on a lake, So the one thing I can say for that race was there are a couple pictures from that race that are some of my favorite race photos. But other than that, I can't really say anything positive about my experience with this particular race and this company. And as I said, they were supposed to do another race that never happened, and I've done research on them, and they don't seem to exist anymore. So I don't think I was the only one that was dissatisfied. Anyway, so, it was a very small race. There weren't very many of us. A particular congresswoman that I do not like decided to lead the race, which that didn't really help do any favors for me toward that race, honestly, because I thought any race director that hired or asked her to come and do anything was kind of already not very good in my books. So we started out, it was on this grassy patch near the lake. Started out, and then you looped back, you kind of went out and then back, and you went down the road around the little park, through the town, and then just out into the middle of nowhere. You were just kind of going around residential areas once you got out of the main portion of the town. And I mean, it wasn't bad, you know, but wasn't great either. You know, you were just kind of... The only time you really saw anyone were when you had the water stations, and when you came to crossroads where they had police officers at the crossroads to guide traffic. It was about the only time you saw anyone. I believe at least portions of the course were open to traffic, which, I mean, I understand, you know, small town, but it's still not ideal. The way they did the water stations, I thought was absolutely atrocious. It was, by the time I finished, it was one of the worst half marathon times I still had. Like literally time-wise. The only ones that I think I did worse were possibly the first Hairy Gorilla Half and the Triple Threat in Rockport, Massachusetts. Triple Threat, as I'm sure you remember from my other video, if you have not watched that, I'll leave a link in the description, but that, I had like a 2.5 hour time. This was like 2 hours and 18 minutes, 2 hours and 16, I don't remember exactly. All I do know is my first half marathon time was 2 hours and 14 minutes. I was running in freezing snow. I'll talk about that in another video, of course, but it wasn't even that hot at that point. It was early enough in the morning, but the way they set up the water stations was kind of not ideal, because basically you had, I think they had 5 total water stations. So, no, definitely not that many. I think it was only like 3. So you ran by one, hit it, ran by the next one, hit it, then you got to the last one where you looped back. The problem with that is that the first 2 are within like 1.5 miles-ish. So you start from the start line, you get to 1.5 miles, hit that station, get to the next one, so you're at like 3 miles, hit that one. No. However it was, you had like 2 to 3 miles between the water station where you looped back and the water station prior to. So if your body is getting used to getting water or Gatorade at certain intervals, your body is going to expect something at that next interval. So when I hit like the 1.5 2 mile point, and then I still had another mile to go, that might have been it. It was like 2 miles, so then 4 miles, and then the last one was like 3 miles. Yeah, it was something like that. It was not, they weren't evenly spaced out. Like, you look at any professional, I mean, I don't really want to say professional, but anyone worth their salt when it comes to race directing, they're going to have like 1.5 miles or a mile or 2 miles and keep it pretty consistent that way, so that you don't have people getting used to at certain intervals it's going to be like that, and then all of a sudden you have a larger gap. There are a couple that do that, but it's not, if anything, it's earlier on in the race, and then after that everything's pretty consistent, not in the middle of the race. So that threw me off. I slowed way down because my body was like craving, and that was the other thing. The first water station, and also the last water station, I'll get to that in a second, only had water. All the others had water or Gatorade. So I got to a point where I was grabbing the Gatorade because, as I found with Syracuse, my body tends to react better to the Gatorade than it does to water for some reason. Sometimes, like the first time I did the Erie Canal half, and possibly the second time, I actually felt nauseous and skipped a couple of water stations because they only did water. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the water they were handing out. I don't know, but I prefer a sports drink as opposed to water for the most part, unless they only offer water. I digress. So, my body kind of craves the sports drink after a while because you get your electrolytes. Your electrolytes are very important to keep you going. I didn't have that, so a lot of and it was starting to get a little warmer by that point, so I was sweating more, so I was losing more electrolytes, and I wasn't getting enough back. I finally got to that water station, grabbed the Gatorade, looped back, and then ran the like 3 miles back to the next one, where I was going, that was one of the first times I was really going back and forth a lot with walking and running. There have only been a few races where I've really done that a lot, and I don't like it, honestly. And this is the other one. I have never in the middle of a race, aside from this race, I'm trying to think now, was there another time where I did? I don't think there was. I think every other time it was before and after. This was the only race I have run, and I have run many races. This was the only time where I had to use the Porta-John during the race. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I should not have needed to do that, considering everything with the race at that up to that point. But that was the one time that I did stop, use it, and continue on. That wasn't pleasant at all. And then, heading back to the finish line, and again, there was nothing, no one around. And I got So I was within like 20 or 30 yards of the last water station, and they're, oh yeah, keep going, you're almost there. And apparently I had the audacity to say, do you have any Gatorade? No! I'm just asking because the majority of the water stations had Gatorade. It's a legitimate question. Because that's another thing. For the most part, you look at a lot of races, and again, there are a few that don't quite do it this way, but for the most part, they're always offering either just water or water and a sports drink. This was the only, I think this was the only experience I had where the first and last water station was purely water and everything else you had an option. Why? I don't know, but I asked because I wanted to know, because I was kind of running on fumes again, so I wanted to know, and I got no. Like, are you stupid? Why would you think we had Gatorade? I don't know. So that didn't really help my feelings toward the race. Finally crossed the finish line, and then I'm standing there going like, "Get here." So that I marked down. Like, the guy even was like, why aren't you, like, immediately pulling this off before you're even crossing the finish line? And I'm like, in my head thinking, I don't know, because I've never had to do this before. So, it was not a pleasant experience. The medal was okay. Both races had the same exact medal, though. Just the ribbon was different. And like, it's just, hey, we've got a roller coaster that doesn't actually exist here, but doesn't that look cool, kind of thing. So I don't know, so many races I've done, they try to kind of do with the theme of the race, or they try to do something cool for the area or the city or the town that it's taking place in, not just like, hey, this has absolutely nothing to do with us, but here's our name on this sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know, between the whole kind of setup of it, between the way the volunteers were, between the lack of water stations, lack of options at the beginning and the end, it just was a very unpleasant race experience looking back. At the time, I was perfectly fine with it, but looking back, after experiencing so many others, no, if that race still existed, I would never do it again. I would advise people to only do it if they were bound and determined to do it, or they lived in the area. Like, not even like, for me, it takes like basically a half an hour to get there. So I'm talking like, if you lived within like a couple minutes of the place, yeah, fine, do it. But otherwise, skip it. But as I said, they don't seem to exist anymore, so I'm pretty sure they got kind of negative reviews on their races. They also did kid races, and they did obstacle course races on the beach, which was interesting to see. Of course, I had nothing to do with that, but I think the following year they did something similar, but keeping to just the obstacle courses, and I don't know that they did. I don't think they've done that again since. So, Yeah. And I still don't know why exactly the race, kind of sister race, was canceled in October. That was supposed to happen at Griffiths Air Force Base in Rome. And just, like, I was all gung-ho, ready to go do it, and then, like, it was pretty much like the night before they canceled it. Just out of the blue, and they were like, we're not explaining why we're canceling, we're just canceling. And when I mentioned it to some people, they were like, well, there's a possibility it was because president was flying into the airbase or something, so, or there was some drill or something going on, so they had to cancel it for that reason because it was unexpected. Just all of a sudden it happened, so they canceled it. But they just kind of disappeared after that weekend, so I don't know. Like, the one thing was, I don't think I paid anything for the photos. I'm not sure though. There have been a couple that I've done that were like, hey, yeah, you get your free race photos. But the problem is you're combing through thousands upon thousands of photos trying to find yourself. I'm very willing to pay like $20 so that you can say, here are all your photos, do what you want. Instead of, hey, they're free, and like, okay, I gotta search through your Facebook page now for hours trying to find myself, or search through some random website trying to find myself. And I think it was either that, or maybe I did pay for it, I don't know. But in any case, couple of the race photos from that race are some of my favorite. There's one of me standing in front of the lake that I really like, but that is really the one positive that I have from that race. Everything else was kind of, I did it. I didn't enjoy it very much, but yeah. So with that, that's that. So, I don't know what I'll do for the next one. I'm kind of thinking I might either talk about Boilermaker or the Syracuse Half Marathon, since they're the ones that I've done the most often. And Boilermaker is probably my favorite race to do. Syracuse Half Marathon's another one I really enjoy. Again, both of them because they're pretty close proximity to me, so, but yeah. I'll figure that out for next time. And until then, remember, run it for the long run. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, peace and love.